From the previous video, we installed the BC Racing coilovers and also installed the new wheels and tires. In this video, we're going to be going over the Powertrix suspension installation, which is all the control arms and front tension rods. We're also going to be installing a rear sway bar and also a front strut tower bar. We're going to start off with the rear sway bar. So on this generation Q45, the base models did not come with a rear sway bar, and only the Q45A and Q45Ts came with rear sway bars, which were the active suspension variants. These are getting harder to find. I was able to find one through the Q45 group. But this is the smaller of the two bars, so there's a 15mm bar and a 20mm bar, and this is the 15mm bar, but it's still better than no sway bar. So starting with the rear suspension here, that was the Powertrix rear upper control arm, and we're going to be doing the rear upper control arm and the rear toe arms. And the main thing I wanted to point out here is that per the instructions, you do need to put anti-seize on the threads, both on the turnbuckle and on the spherical bearing. And I also wanted to point out that this bearing that I got, the FK bearings, are the upgraded bearings compared to just the normal base bearings. And the reason I went with the upgraded bearings is because the Q45 weighs more than the 300ZX, which is what these parts are originally for. So that way it just gives them a little bit more durability because of the weight, and just it just makes sense, so I don't have to worry about going through a bunch of spherical bearings due to excess weight. During the installation, I do want to give a quick shout out to the Powertrix support. Out of all the companies I contacted, they were the ones that helped me out the most with technically a product they don't support, since these are 300ZX components, but I was contacting them about a Q45. Even if everything is kind of the same, it's not technically something they support, but it's something that they definitely helped me with compared to a lot of the other companies, several of which just kind of brushed me off, so I do definitely appreciate them helping me out with this. So for the rear toe arm, the one thing I wanted to mention, and this is also applicable to the rear upper control arm, is that Powertrix gives you little washers or spacers that you can put in between the actual flange of the control arms to take up any space. In my case, I had to use both washers for the toe arm, and I did not need to use any washers for the camber arm. So just make sure you take a look at that when you're installing. And if you have enough room to add the spacers, add the spacers. If you don't, then don't worry about it. And this is another thing you want to pay attention to during installation, is you want to make sure your spherical bearing or the joint is facing straight up and down and isn't tilted directly to one side or the other. This just gives it full range of movement. If it's kind of twisted all the way to one side or the other, then it's going to limit its range of movement, which is going to increase the chances of it making noise, which also means increased wear. For the front upper control arm, this is also pretty straightforward, but there are a couple things that I wanted to point out, mainly being that the front and rear bolts are different sizes. So If you try and install the rear bolt and the front bolt hole for the front upper control arm, it won't fit, or vice versa. The other thing is that front upper bolt will only come out all the way once you have that rear bolt disconnected. There's not enough space for it to actually come out because it's such a long bolt, it ends up just hitting the inside of the fender. So that's why I had to take it out and move it in that direction to get it out. For installation, the bolts do need to be lubricated as it shows in the instructions, mainly in that middle section. And also you want to apply grease on the contact surfaces, both on the surfaces and on the control arm itself. And similar to what I mentioned for the rear control arms, the joint on the front actually needs to be angled inward towards the, if you want to think about it, towards the engine. So they need to be kind of angled a little bit inwards, so that way once you lower the vehicle back on the ground, the tension rod will twist a little bit, and it's going to twist in the opposite direction, so that way it'll be centered once it twists. So just keep that in mind. And again, the primary reason is to limit wear and also reduce noise. So here is the front strut tower bar. This front strut tower bar is from a R32 Skyline. I suspect that the Q45 is actually a stretched out Skyline chassis as far as the body goes, because the suspension and mounting points are all the same. The subframes are the same, and it's the same way with the 300ZX, which is why the 300ZX suspension and Skyline suspension can bolt to a Q45. It's just a Q45 is longer and wider. There is some slight elongating of the holes that you have to make on the flanges for the strut tower bar, just to help center the bar, but you're only taking a few millimeters off. It's not a whole lot. And the other thing that I'll show here soon is that you also need to get a new turnbuckle machined for the strut tower bar, to essentially make up the difference in length between a Skyline and a Q45, since, as I mentioned, the Q45 is a lot wider. So you have to get an extension for that strut bar for it to fit. So with the strut bar installed and closing the hood, you can kind of see just two little small indentions in the fabric insulation. This is just mainly from the nuts on the turnbuckle. It's barely contacting, so I'm not worried about it. It doesn't make any noise while driving. And this is the stock turnbuckle on top, and the one I had machined is on the bottom. The stock turnbuckle is about 4.5 inches long, and the new machined one is 8 inches long. And the threads on these are weird. It's like an M18 by 1.5, and you cannot really find that size off the shelf. So just something to keep in mind. You're probably gonna need to get one machined. And to finish the video off, I made a very crude camera mount for my GoPro, and I bolted it in where the stock muffler used to be. So there's actually just like a perfect little area for a camera to capture the rear suspension, just to kind of see it in action. So I kind of threw some highlights together, and enjoy, and thanks for watching.